Hey everyone! What with all the old 40k material we've been looking at recently, I've become oddly nostalgic for a time of slightly awful yet quite charming models, and so I went and bought a bunch of these. Now if you don't recognise this, it's a 1993 second edition monopose orc Boyz sprue, probably most well known for being part of the main box set of the time. In this video I'll be putting together and painting some of these 25-year-old models and seeing how they stack up to their contemporary versions, and hopefully create something entertaining in the process. So first off, let's get this one off the sprue and clean it up a little. Fortunately, these models are snap fit, so you can take a look at them prior to gluing, or just not glue them at all if you like losing arms. But yeah, it's a second edition orc. They're quite a bit shorter than the modern ones, especially noticeable if you see them from the side or rear where their pointy hats can't hide it quite as well, but miniatures getting bigger isn't exactly something new to 40k. Also, as Remlays of 40k Theories very helpfully pointed out, technically these aren't monopose miniatures. You can in fact pose the gun in at least 3 different ways. Gun raised, gun down, and gun, neutral. Just think of the possibilities. Anyway, before I paint them, I'll add some gravel to the base, but I will be resisting the urge to paint their bases entirely goblin green. As tempting as it would be to go fully second edition, it just wouldn't exactly fit with the rest of my army. So, let's get to painting. One, two, three. 3 orcs! As you can see, I went for a more modern goth paint scheme for these guys so they match the other boys in the mob that they're a part of. I was tempted to go with a more era-appropriate colour scheme, but the goths in 2nd ed were just a little too red for my tastes. It was pretty fun to paint them, and I was surprised at how good they actually look next to modern models when they're not sporting that old colour scheme. I tried to mix up the colours a little bit on each of them so they didn't look like clones, but you know, monopose, there's only so much you can do. Although what possessed me to do checks after a several-month break from painting, I'll never know. If you're interested in the paints I use for this, then I'll pop them on screen now so you can see. Our paints are a hodgepodge of the old and new Citadel with a few Vallejo thrown in there, so I've just picked the closest one to the current Citadel line to avoid confusion. Your confusion, not mine, I can never remember the newer names. My only real complaint I have about these old orcs, aside from the obvious monoposeness about them, is that some of the mould lines were in places that were a real pain to remove, but then, what's new? Honestly, I kinda want to make a full mob of these now, which isn't super hard since you can often pick them up relatively cheap off eBay, and if you did use some, you might just make the odd opponent incredibly happy due to the nostalgia of the whole thing. If you're particularly committed, it's not super difficult to customise them either. Here's a few that I've been working on, mostly just weapon swaps and minor reposing, although I will admit that removing the horns from the helmet and rebuilding the missing bits with green stuff was a real pain in the arse. So yeah, that was some old models what I painted. Maybe we'll do more videos like this in the future, who knows. To end off the video though, I thought I'd show you the very first green skin I ever painted, around 20 years ago. Yeah, it's not so great. It's also not a GW figure either, it's from the board game Dark World that I had as a kid. But I just wanted to use this guy as an example since I know it's super easy to get disheartened by your own painting abilities, especially seeing all of these scarily good people online. But if you keep going, you will get better, and you know what, if you're having fun doing it, then does it really matter how well they're painted? That's not to say there's anything wrong with wanting to be better at painting, just, you know, we should all probably cut ourselves a bit of slack sometimes. We are supposed to be doing this for fun, right?